All right, I'll go ahead and call the Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee meeting of August 1st, 2023 to order. We're still waiting on Zach Cronin from Public Works, but we can go ahead and take care of the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 5th, 2023. Are there any changes or a motion?
Move to approve minutes?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The minutes are approved. First item of new business is the request of Clyde Logue, owner for property located at 27 Shaw, requesting lot line relocation and subdivision as follows. Tax map 223 lot 18 will be decreasing from 34,205 square feet and 230 feet of frontage to 20,199 square feet and 129 feet of frontage. Map 223 lot 18-1 decreasing from 23,149 square feet and 127 feet of frontage to 21,241 square feet and 101 feet of frontage. And the creation of a new lot with a lot area of 15,812 square feet and 101 feet of frontage. Said property is located on Assessor Map 223 lot 18 and lies within the Single Residence B district. Who's here to present?
Good afternoon. Eric Weinrib with Altus, and I believe Clyde has gotten in.
Yes.
Okay. For the record, Eric Weinrib with Altus Engineering, representing Bonnie and Clyde. Last summer, working with the previous owner, Jones and Beach, the previous owner, Austin Repair and Renovation, Jones and Beach successfully subdivided the parcel into two lots, the parent parcel with the existing house and then an upper parcel with frontage on Walker Bungalow. At that time, Altus assisted with the stormwater management design for the site. And also at that time, the city recognized and accepted that Shaw and Walker Bungalow were private ways. Since then, I think probably through the process of the sewer design and deed research, the legal department has now opined that both Shaw and Walker Bungalow are public ways. And with that, I believe it's an easement right away, so that as we have shown, the applicant owns to the center line of the road. But what we've learned is that we can use the land area to the center line. Setbacks are from the limits of the right of way. So with that, additionally, although we own to the center line, legal department wants us to have legal frontage at that right-of-way line. So as we have it drawn right now along Shaw at the limits of the right-of-way, we're around 97 feet. So we're going to have to just do a slight alignment of that property as it comes off of the center of the right-of-way to make sure that we have 100 feet going back. They also have determined that the rear setback is opposite Shaw Road, and we felt that it was they were both side setbacks because we have frontage on both Walker Bungalow. So now Bonnie and Clyde own both parcels. They wish to do a further subdivision, and initially when we first started looking at the idea was to split the two parcels equally and raise the existing house. What we've worked out is that an opportunity to save the house, create the new lot line, meet all the zoning requirements by having adequate frontage on Shaw Road and gaining a little bit of land on Walker Bungalow. That actually affords us a lot of opportunity in when they go to build a house, because there's a lot of grade change here. And by having a driveway coming off of Walker Bungalow, it can access the upper side of the lot and have a garage on the upper side, go right into the main living area, and then have a walkout basement or lower level on the Shaw Road side. Also, as we were going through this process, we've gone through many design iterations and concepts, and at one point, there was going to be a lot line adjustment with the easterly abutter, and because of that, that's why we have that drainage easement running right through the middle of the new lot. That has fallen apart, and so we're not going to be doing that lot line adjustment, and now we're going to move the drainage easement into the setback, so along the property line. I view this application as an enhancement because we're doing urban infill, we're meeting all the zoning requirement, and instead of breaking it in half and tearing down a functional, usable structure, that house will be saved, and we're not going to be wasting a lot of built materials. It's part of our design, and I think go to our stormwater management plan right there. Initially, the upper lot 18-1, the stormwater management area ran parallel to the property line, and so now that we have access off of Walker Bungalow, what we've done is we've turned that up a little bit, keep all that stormwater management area on the upper parcel. And that, because the parcel, the contours run perpendicular to the lot line, that's an easy area to provide the stormwater management in a shallow depression in a rain garden. And that was designed for maximum impervious area of around 6,000 square feet. We have purposely not provided stormwater management at this time for the lower lot, and that is because we really don't know what's going to be built there. And what we would respectfully request as a condition of the approval is that prior to a building permit, that a site plan be developed, we know exactly what's going to be built, and then we provide a stormwater management plan that's appropriate for the use. Did get the TAC comments. I do want to just respond to those quickly if I can. It is our intent that each lot has their own services, and there are no crossing of the property line. And what I think, I wasn't around for the last 3 weeks, so some of the things happened I didn't have a final chance to look at. So there's a stub for the new lot on right, my finger, to the left of the drainage structure, and that is shown tying into the existing house. That is just a stub, and thank you. And what I think our disconnect internally is that the city sewer plans actually show that as a connection to the existing home, when in fact the service to that existing home is further to the left, closer to the driveway. So, and we will do a confirmation to get that location of the existing service. So that, I believe, is the concern with utilities crossing other properties. So Clyde had paid for that service to be put in ahead of time so that there wasn't new or additional excavation in the roadway. As noted earlier, we'll make some minor changes to the lot configuration to address legal concerns. And that includes using the rear setback off of Shaw and side for the others. We'll, again, when it was developed, it was understood that both Walker Bungalow and Shaw were private ways, and both those labels will be removed. And as also noted above, The upper rain garden has been reconfigured. We want to keep the lower one as open at this point and keep that as a final design consideration with the site work. We can add a note to the plan, to the recording plan, indicating that the stormwater management maintenance reports for each lot should be submitted to DPW on an annual basis. I think I'm out of words.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Any comments from TAC members at this time, or questions?
I just have a question about I understand why you want to wait to put the rain garden in on the lower lot there, but this is not going to come back before us or planning board when they put an application to build the house in. So I think we need something on the plan that's, instead of area reserved for, maybe will be constructed as per requirement by planning. So
Yeah,
just strengthen that language.
Yeah, we can morph that language however you want it.
Okay, thank you.
Shanti?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, because I'm not going to remember, and you come to pull a building permit, and so what is the mechanism going to be, even if it's on the site plan? Basically, planning, as part of your interdepartmental consistency review, we need to make sure that in fact that
Gotcha.
stormwater plan is presented and then
I have one
reviewed
word.
and approved through someone in the city, whether it's, Dave and Zach, or
Vincent will pick up on that in the conditions of the approval. I'm quite confident.
as long as Vincent's still here, right? You never know what happens.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure there's a foolproof mechanism.
That's
I think
a
the
great
plan-
point.
The plan the planning board approves has to show that language.
Something is
Yeah.
to be
The
there.
planning board approval of the stormwater in that location, and the requirement that it's there, so that it gets caught. That's what I was thinking. I think we'd catch it if it's on the
Okay.
approved site plan from the
That's
planning
good.
board.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what the address is going to be? Is it 27?
No, that's usually done after our approval, and it
Before
goes
building
through
permit.
assessing before it gets recorded, so that you guys assign it, so that on the recording plan it goes in, I believe.
For the building permit.
Is that right? Because
And
map
before
block
the-
and lot, so that's been missed before. The map block lot definitely will be, but we want to make sure we get a numerical address. Jamie and fire and
Yeah.
assessing, all on the same page. But is that now in your planning board checklist?
It's in the, I talked to Vincent about it. I don't think we put it in the workflow yet, but.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the workflow, but not on the list yet.
Okay. All right. That's all that I had. Thanks.
Thanks. You all set, Zach?
Similar to the problem with the upper lot, we're going to be paving Walker Bungalow fairly soon, actually this season. So that'll be under moratorium. Water, sewer, et cetera, will probably have to come out off of Shaw Road.
Yeah, I believe, and it should show on there that all those stubs were put in, as well as, I believe, sleeves from the utility pole. Clyde raised his hand.
Hey, I just wanted to address that the water is now in on the upper lot.
Clyde, if you
The
could
sewer has been in for a year,
Clyde.
and the poles, the power poles are going in. I believe that
Clyde. Could you just introduce yourself, please?
By name.
You got it muted, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm Clyde Logue. I'm the property owner.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say on the Shaw Road thing, we have the water in now. We also have the sewer in, and we're hopefully going to have the power under street power in before the paving. We've been waiting on the poles from Eversource, and it just went in yesterday.
All right, thanks.
All right. Stephanie?
Did you know that you're a couple feet short on your frontage for the new lot?
Yes, that's what, we thought it was the 100 from the center, and so when legal opined that it has to be from the right-of-way, we have to go from that 97 out. So it jogs in slightly, So we just need to kick that out about 2.5 feet.
Okay, but you will be doing that?
Yes,
On an
absolutely.
updated plan set? Okay,
They'll do that for the planning board, right? So we'll
Great.
Give make a
Okay.
recommendation.
See how it jogs in right there, and so we'll just
Yep.
kick it back out. And
Sorry, missed that the first
that's
time.
okay.
All right, if there's no other comments at this time, we'll open the public comment section. So if you would like to speak, please come up and introduce yourself. You can just sit in one of the chairs.
So, okay. So we're Brady Bird and Brian Nesty, the owners of 184, the adjacent property there. You know, to step back historically, the town needed to put public sewer into this area, and you know, it wasn't something we requested. Now, having happened, we're seeing the first multi-lot subdivision of the area, and now down to the absolute minimum possible 15,000 square feet, wedging every corner that's possible. Streets changed to public designation. Our lot has 40% of its area under pavement for public use, which used to be private streets, now are declared public. And so what we see is that there's a, you know, with this subdivision and with all these changes, it's really affecting our property value. And this would be the first subdivision in this area in 40-plus years. And the question is whether that's the character of the neighborhood. These would be the closest two houses in the entire Walker Bungalow area if this lot gets granted. That's a dry wash that goes between the two properties. And all of the adjustments thus far have moved to aim water at that wash, which has not flowed in any storms, and now routinely gets that. So I don't know. You know, the area is there, but what it does to the neighboring houses, it puts a real squeeze on it. Did you have something else?
Yeah, so I'm Brian Nesty, the other owner. And I think when you look at this too and kind of experiment with this, you know, we were under the impression there was always a lot above, and we were very supportive of that being separated even with the previous owners. And then, you know, and then it came to be that there was enough space here because there's no more private septic, right? And that they could split a lot off there. So that was new information. We've lived there for 18 years and enjoyed the neighborhood very much. And, you know, we've had situations where we've asked for a variance, we were not granted a variance to put in a garage, and we were willing to buy some of the land during this whole time period. And we actually had done all of the work with this committee and the current owners to do that, to ensure that we could maintain our property value and our privacy. What this division does is completely changes the nature of the neighborhood, which I understand isn't really the purview completely of this group. But I think when you're asking for special things like additional area on Walker Bungalow, I mean, if you look at that, like, we are really sandwiched in there. The other thing this does not show is the building envelope for a house on it right now on these designs, which is, well, I mean, not really. Now, in addition to that, the relocating of that pipe along the lot line right now is about a 30-foot buffer of trees and shrubs that have always been there, have always been part of helping to deal with water, if there were water there, but it's been dry, like we said. But, you know, we've had this nice buffer in between us for some time. We've enjoyed it. It's been great. But it seems, you know, very, very interesting that it has to be on that side, and that, you know, we're the ones that are we're really heavily impacted by this. And, you know, we could provide photos and video and more information about this, but this really impacts our value of our property and our enjoyment and privacy. And I don't think granting any specific additional opportunities, like different setbacks for, you know, side where there's a rear, where there's extra space up there, and squeezing in a driveway that's really close to our place it's a lot to ask. So I don't know where that takes this in this conversation, but we wanted to have our
Yeah, we
Our
understand
voices
it's
are-
the technical aspects on this board, but yeah.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comment.
Good afternoon, Sheridan Lloyd. I am also a close abutter and to some extent an abutter. First thing I'd like to bring up, and this is a technical issue, there is, as it's now being called, I forget what it is, a drainage right-of-way. Give some history on this area. This originally was developed in the 1930s for some of the houses, but most of them were put in the 1950s when Pease went in and there was a tremendous building boom. That is, as the gentleman said, about the last time there was any development in this area because it's been secluded, because we've all been on septic, because the city always said they would not be able to afford to put in a sewer system. The EPA, there was an edict with the EPA to require the city to not get a giant fine because of the sewer plant not following what the regs were. We ended up getting a sewer system in our neighborhood specifically because that fine was trying to be avoided. So that's fine, we now have a sewer. We were all assured this would have no huge impact on the development of our neighborhood. Here's a good example. We're not even finished with putting the sewer system in. It ended up going with the current owners. It is not the previous owners. The current owners ended up splitting this property when they bought it 3 years ago from one property to two properties. Now they're coming back. They haven't built anything yet. The sewer still is not completely put in, and now they're trying to split it 3 ways. We are the ones upstream and uphill from these properties of that right-of-way for the water. This has always been woods. It was historically woods. It was historically open streams throughout this neighborhood going through everyone's properties. The only property that still is the historic, environmentally appropriate open stream is our property. We're 2 properties uphill from this. Everyone else north of us and south of us have ended up closing their stream into a 6-inch pipe. This is the pipe that you're all talking about that's at the top of the property, which can't be seen on the map right now. If somebody could move it, you can go farther up. Thank you. So if you look on the left-hand side of the map, there is a pipe that comes out. Cliff Road is not actually there. It is not a paper street. It is not owned by the city. But where that is showing the pipe coming out, it is on the property line. It was daylighted. At this point, for whatever reason, all of a sudden it's all the way down at the bottom of that top property. It was never that far down. It is a daylighted 6-inch pipe. Now with all this additional piping going all the way over and down with 5 elbows in a 6-inch pipe, I don't think anyone has looked at this. We now have 510 additional feet of 6-inch pipe. Right now, with the storm system and the storms that we end up getting, our yard, because we're the only one with an open stream, everything backs up into our yard because the 6-inch pipe that was put in 50 to 75 years ago gets overwhelmed. I have seen years ago when Mark and Amy Barlow owned right across where the piping ended, where that pipe ends up being solid water coming out of that 6-inch pipe, and it is blasting out of that pipe. And that's with the current length of what the pipe is. Now with adding another 510 more pipe, I am not a water piping engineer, but it's easy enough to get the general gist of you have greater resistance, you end up putting in 5 elbows, you get even more resistance, we're going to have even more backup, and our yard is going to get flooded even more because of all those jigs and jogs and everything else. It was agreed upon that that would not get changed. I've already brought up at meetings, do not end up changing that. It has already been put in, it was put in a long time ago, and now I'm finding out that they're going to pipe the whole thing all the way down. This will impact us, and it will impact other people around the area. So I am requesting that the whole piping system where, again, it's an open stream, and it has been open stream and open to the air on that top property, which allows for proper percolation of water. One of the things that everyone talked about with the sewer system is all the septics were not percolating properly. This will not percolate properly, and they were saying that all the sewers, all the septics were going into Sagamore Creek. That piping is now taking what's open stream water, taking it into a pipe, and they're going to run it all the way down to the open storm drain that then pours right into Sagamore. We're not allowing for the proper percolation into the soil and allow soil and microbes to do what they're supposed to do, which is to be able to absorb and break down anything that goes into streams. Now you're going to be dumping it directly into the river, which has not been happening, has never happened. So I'd like additional engineering going on and proper design for the proper system, because no one's talked about that. You talk about the rain gardens, which is perfect, but this, taking all this water off the property in piping is not doing anything with that rain garden. So I think that whole part of the design needs to be reconsidered. That's one of them. Let's see, what was the other thing? I think that's the main one at this point, because I think the other stuff has been somewhat covered. But again, there was one other thing. Again, this is one of those things that there are no properties that are this size in this neighborhood. There never have been. I think we need to look at what the zoning is, and we need to readjust what the zoning is in this neighborhood, because it's not in keeping with what the actual neighborhood has been. A third of an acre yard is equivalent to being just about downtown. This is not a downtown neighborhood, and it shouldn't be, because it's well beyond anything else that's a third of an acre. So we need to look at the overall design of the city and assure that this ends up maintaining with proper development and sequential development, like any other area would be, that we don't end up suddenly having this being a new downtown or close to downtown. And the other thing I'd just like to bring up, if no one's aware, if you want to actually buy the historic house and the whole bottom part of it, even though they're trying to get it split off, it is now available. Jane and Joe sold it for $1.6 million. You can buy just the house right now for $2.25 million. It went on the market yesterday. So I, to some extent, throwing some other wrenches in it, but I sort of question what is actually going on here. Is this a homeowner trying to end up building a brand-new house behind this, or is this a developer just breaking out the property as much as they possibly can and walking away? This whole neighborhood has been very stable. We've been in it for 22 years. Sadie next to us had been in it for 35. Our neighbor behind us had built the house in the 1950s, and the new owner has only been there for 4 years. So this has been a very stable neighborhood, and I don't see this as being any sort of improvement for the neighborhood. This is not helping our area. So among the first thing is, like I said, I'd like to have somebody address the fact that this stream is now being put all under piping where it had been all above ground. And this will impact more than just this house. This will impact the neighborhood and our house and reduce our value of our house, because we're then going to be flooded more than once a year, which is about what we have right now, which is something is acceptable because we bought the house knowing what it was and how it was designed. We're not expecting a neighbor to be able to end up impacting us and ruining the value of our house from 2 doors down because they're not doing what's appropriate. So is there anyone that ends up actually covering something like this? I know I brought it up before, Peter, you and I have talked about it in the past, and it was the first step was the fact of they couldn't end up clogging it. They couldn't end up cutting it off. But this is equivalent to cutting it off.
This is just a public comment session. We don't respond to that.
Oh, you don't respond? Oh, when will this be responded to or resolved?
So.
What is the process?
This is it's a meeting. You have an opportunity to comment. It goes to the conservation, the technical advisory committee, and then it goes to the planning board. So we make a recommendation to the planning board, and then they address it. So some of the sort of policy questions you have would be for the planning board, and then the more technical questions are more for this group. So this group could talk about the size of the pipe that's being put in to convey the water and things like that.
Okay.
And I think that's, something that's been looked at before. But this isn't an opportunity to have a back and forth with the public. It's the opportunity for the applicant to present, and then public comment is where you can make public comments. But
Okay.
And so the committee can ask the applicant questions that we hear from the public. So
Gotcha. Okay.
after this, we may address that.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any other public comment at this time? Or anyone on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion and turn it back over to TAC for additional comments or questions. Eric, you can come back up.
I did have a question.
Sure.
It's about the sizing of that pipe that's planned to go through there that will convey the water down to the rain garden below and then out into the storm system. Has that been looked at in terms of conveying the storm water and the sizing of that pipe?
Yeah, so the upper pipe, we're tying into the existing size of the upper pipe. We've walked that with DPW. I believe Peter Rice walked it with us. We had several members. No one knows. It's just been coupled together across multiple property lines to Smith D'Alessandro. I believe it goes all the way up to Mr. Greeley's property and several properties up there, and there's no easements. It just a pipe that has been put together, and when we got involved in the stormwater management a year ago for the other property, they were just discharging onto the applicant's property without any rights. And so through the approval process, through city planning board, Clyde or Austin Repair granted an easement to allow these people to continue at, allowing that flow to go across this property. It was sized and approved by DPW in that approval process. And so all this, and part of it was built during the sewer project. So the site work contractor took the approved drawings and built the extension of the pipe to a point, and now it discharges further down, same size pipe, same conveyance, down toward Shaw Road. So it's doing right now exactly what it had been doing, the pipe just a little bit longer. When the project's approved, then the rest of that closed drainage will be put into place. It's going to have the same conveyance ability as it does today and as it did before we did any work out there. And it had, like I said, it has been reviewed and approved by DPW and by planning.
Hey, I'd like to just comment one thing. the size of the pipe is actually upsized. It's 8 inches now. It is a full 2 inches bigger than the pipe that was, so it does not have any, or should not have any resistance, shall we say, and should be very hard to plug.
That was part of my question, is it bigger?
Okay.
Can I make one?
Partly because we didn't want to manage, obviously, having to keep it unplugged if it was the same size pipe, so that's why it's much bigger.
We've closed the public portion.
Clive just spoke, though.
He's the applicant.
I just want to make one correction. It is not a stormwater, it is a stream. It was originally an open stream all the way down, and some people over the last 70 years put it underground in a pipe. It is flowing in our yard.
Thank you. Any other comments for the applicant or questions?
Well, I think that there was comments made about zoning and comments from the other neighbors about the size of the lots. These are, technical advisory committee is reviewing it against the zoning ordinance. These meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regs in terms of the size of the lot and the way that it's divided. So our review of the technical portion of it is that it meets the requirements there. It is something you can bring up with the planning board as well. They might have different opinion and different discretion they would take, but our review is really on the technical merits of the application.
All right, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Well, I'll make a recommendation. I think the one thing is that I guess I'll put a stipulation in that they adjust the frontage from the right setback, and so it's meets the setback, but that shouldn't be a huge change. Were there other stipulations that
There were a couple things from that memo that should be added in.
You wanted to have the stormwater management
we want to make
describe the location.
the location and the requirement for the rain garden? Yep. That one, and then, is there another one?
Prior to building permit issuance or
Yeah,
application, yeah.
prior to planning board, I would say.
All right.
Because the planning board's going to be the last crack at it, so
Yeah.
prior to this going to planning board, it should have the lot line adjusted for the width of the lot, the frontage,
Yeah, we'd have that corrected, but not the stormwater management plan,
No,
just the note.
The
Yes,
note on the plan saying it's required to put that rain garden in the front lot.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think we want to add that note regarding that the stormwater management maintenance
Oh,
report
the
be
maintenance,
submitted.
I thought that was on there. Okay, yep. Oh, that was in the comments and not, okay, yep. So that stipulation would be that there be a stormwater maintenance management plan developed for the site.
But you do have that note on there, right? Area reserved for stormwater management.
Yeah, I think Peter just wants it,
That's just the rain
Tweaked.
garden area. I think they need a maintenance plan for that.
we do have a maintenance plan, but it doesn't necessarily reference it on the plan.
Yeah, it should reference it on the plan and then
Yep.
talk about where it was approved. So with those stipulations, I'd recommend approval to the planning board.
I would add also correcting the size and location of the utilities and the drain.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item B, under new business, the request of Lonza Biologics, owner for property located at 101 International Drive, requesting to amend the master plan to reduce the overall square footage to 800,000 square feet and 3 buildings, and reduce the height of building number 1 from 3 stories to 1 story. Also amended site plan approval for Phase 2, which includes fit-up of building number 1 and the utility building, construction of a temporary surface parking lot and gravel area, for construction trailers, parking, and laydown area. Said property is located on Assessor Map 305, Lot 6, and lies within the Airport Business Commercial District.
Thanks, Peter. My name is Neil Hansen. I'm with Tyne Bonds. Up here at the table with me is Dave Morgan with Lonza, and Coulter Kurzik from Tyne Bond is also here with us. So we are back. I think there's a few of you that were on this committee when we came through back in 2018 with the original approval for this project. To refresh those that were here and to kind of bring everyone else up to speed, I'm going to go through a brief history of the project and how we got to where we are today. I'm also going to touch on a little bit of what's been going on the site over the last few years. So this project was originally approved in January of 2019. It was a master plan expansion of Lonza's current facility out at the Pease Trade Port. The primary development area was referred to as the Iron Parcel. That parcel of land has since been merged with the 101 International Parcel as part of the 2019 approval. It was also amended to include a parcel of land from the 55 International Parcel, which is the PDA offices. So the total land area of the Lonza property is now 46 acres. That original approval, we received an administrative approval in September of 2019 and a second administrative approval in January of this year, making minor modifications to mostly the phasing and then the height of Building 1. The original approval had 7 conditions subsequent. They were numbered 2.5 through 2.11. In the packet that we had submitted, we had prepared a response to some of those stipulations, detailing kind of where we stand with those stipulations of approval. One of them in particular is the reason we're back here today. Stipulation 2.8 that's said the planning board's recommended approval applied only to phases 1A and 1B. Subsequent phases of development shall require submission of updated plans and supporting documents and notice public hearings with the Technical Advisory Committee and Planning Board for amended site plan approval. So at this point, we are, Lonza is ready to move beyond Phase 1B, and thus we are back here today. So if you can go to the next page, Peter. So this was the originally approved master plan from January of 2019. It was three-story buildings. They're 105 feet in height, along with two 4-story parking garages, I believe, for a total of 700 spaces. You go to the next page, Peter. As part of that approval, we were asked to prepare phasing plans for that master plan. So this was the originally approved Phase 1, which included the daylighting of Hodgson Brook at the top of the page there. That was originally, as you may remember, in a culvert that ran through roughly the middle of this parcel. It also included the Building 1 shell and some construction laydown area, stormwater treatment, roadways, et cetera. If you go to the next page, Peter. So this was the first administrative approval in September of 2019. The only change here is that we converted one parking garage to a central utility building. It's the one in the bottom middle of this page, and then added additional stories to the other parking garage to make up the difference and retain those 700 spaces. Everything else on this administrative approval on the master plan side was identical to the original approval. If you go to the next sheet, the Phase 1B plan was also amended to move the utility building and parking garage into Phase 1 from the master plan. If you go to the next sheet, Peter. So this was the January 2023 administrative approval. The only change on this one is that we reduced the height of Building 1 from 3 stories and 105 feet to 1 story and 36 feet. This was due to, at the time, Lonza had identified a user for that building, and as part of expediting the process of getting that building constructed, the decision was made to construct it specifically to the needs of that client with no additional area included. So that's where the additional 2 stories weren't needed. And so that was the request from January. If you go to the next sheet, also part of that request was only building approximately half of the approved footprint of the utility building. Again, it's the portion that is needed to support the Building 1 fit up. So that is generally where we are today. Right now, the site, as I mentioned, is now a 46-acre parcel, which includes the current Lonza facility, which is now fully built out. Site work ongoing on the iron parcel. Phase 1A has reached substantial completion as of about a week ago. That included the daylighting of Hodgson Brook, the stream restoration project. It included the sidewalk along the entire length of Corporate Drive from Goose Bay to Goose Bay. And then it included the street tree landscaping along that sidewalk, as well as took care of the soil management plan portion of this project. There was some contaminated soils on site, and those have all been capped at the northern end of the site, the tip of the iron there. So all of the soil contamination issues have been addressed as part of Phase 1A. Phase 1B construction has basically started on the construction of Phase 1B. The site fencing was actually going up today on our way here, and contractors are getting ready to mobilize to begin site work for the construction of the Building 1 shell. Associated site improvements for Building 1, including the drive aisles, fire lanes, all the underground utilities, sidewalks, and stormwater management system for Building 1, which includes gravel wetland number 1 in the bottom right corner there. It also includes the construction of the cul-de-sac at the end of what remains the public portion of Goose Bay Drive. And then it also includes the construction of a couple temporary sedimentation basins, which will be for construction runoff control for the construction laydown areas. So as I had mentioned, the original approval had 7 conditions subsequent of approval. I'm going to run through a couple of them quickly that I just want to touch on. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory and were included in the submission. 2.6 was related to Lonza getting a water service issued an approved application for water service associated with the expansion. So that will need to be done as part of phase 2, which is the fit up of building 1. The 2.7 was related to the industrial user permit for wastewater flows for the site. As of right now, the applicant acknowledges that they will need an industrial user permit for the city for this this first building. The applicant's expected development on the iron parcel for the foreseeable future will not necessitate additional capacity for increased wastewater flows beyond its existing permits. Lonza had previously met with the city back over the winter, and there was a letter that was written by DTC lawyers to the city that was also included with your packet that sort of outlined the Lonza's position and some of what was discussed at that meeting related to wastewater flows. 2.8 was the one I'd mentioned earlier is the reason why we're returning, as Lonza is ready to move beyond phase 1B. 2.9 is just was the defining what phase 1A and phase 1B included. And then the other major one that is part of our return here is 2.10, which is to expand the scope of our original traffic study to include 6 additional intersections. That updated traffic report was included in your packets as well, and that included those 6 intersections that were identified. And then the last one was asking how the applicant to verify how fertilizer will be applied as part of the stream restoration, and that is no longer applicable as the stream is complete. However, fertilizer was not used as part of the construction of that. So now I'm going to get into the amended plans that we have submitted as part of this package. Firstly, I'm going to run through the updated master plans and just touch on the parts of the master plan that have changed from the original approval. There's a lot of sheets, so I'm just going to stick to what's changed. And then if there's any specific questions after, I can get into that. If you want to go to the next page, please. So this is the new master plan that's part of the package. Again, the building 1 height is still the 1-story, 36 feet. The other 4 buildings on the site have remained the same. There's some additional details shown in the utility yards on these plans as that design is being progressed. While the construction of the shell is getting ready to commence, the fit-up design is still underway, and then obviously we need this amended site approval before that work can begin. Other changes on this plan, the employee vehicle entrance, which is on the northern Goose Bay entrance. There was a passenger car turnaround that was initially approved on the on-site side of the gate. We have moved that to the public side of the gate so that if a car comes down that shouldn't be going there, they can turn around without having to go through the gate. Another change is where the access road is just below the utility building. The original design, that was disconnected. You couldn't drive a vehicle through there other than the fire lane that went between the utility building and building 1. At the request of the Lonza site operations people, we have connected that and gated on both ends. That way, if a delivery truck inadvertently comes through the passenger vehicle entrance, they can be let through to the truck loading area to the south end of the site. The way this was designed is that all of the employee vehicles and visitors will be coming through the northern Goose Bay entrance through the new security gates that will be installed, and then all of the delivery and truck traffic will use the south entrance to access the rear of the existing building as well as buildings 1 and 2. And then any truck traffic for the future building 3 would come off of the corporate drive entrance, which will be gated so that only authorized vehicles can use that entrance. And then finally, the last piece that has changed on the master site plan is adjacent to utility yard 1, which is on the south end of building 1. We have added a loading area for vehicles accessing that utility yard. They have a place to get out of the drive aisle while doing any sort of loading, unloading, or maintenance work required for the utility yard. So if you can flip through, so these are just the detailed plans. Again, I'm not going to go through everything on here, as a lot of it is the same as the original approval. But on here, again, that vehicle turnaround is on the public side of that gate, as well as we're showing a guardhouse, which I didn't mention on the previous slide, at that gate, which wasn't on the original approved plans as well. If you go to the next sheet, so again, this is top of the page. There is the utility building on the left, parking garage on the right, and then buildings 1 and 2. Again, building 1 story, building 2 and 3 would be 3 stories. You can go to the next page. And then southern end of the site, again, we've added a guardhouse on this end on the private side of the cul-de-sac, along with a sliding fence. That way, Lonza can maintain control of who's coming and going from the site. So grading and drainage, again, this is unchanged from the original approval. Up on the right side there is one of the gravel wetlands. That gravel wetland is designed and sized to treat the building 3 area, as well as the parking garage. That has remained unchanged from the original approval. If you go to the next page, Peter. Again, no changes here to the stormwater plan. We've added some additional detail as far as coordinating roof drain tie-ins from building 1 into the stormwater system. The system had been previously sized to handle the flows from the roof, but now we have actual tie-in locations from the plumbing drawings on those plans. If you go to the next sheet, and then again, gravel wetland 1 in the bottom left is part of the Phase 1B construction, which has just started and remains unchanged. And then again, the rain garden on the south end of building 2 is as it was originally approved, and it's sized to treat the future building 2 area. If you go to the next sheet, utilities. So the only point change to point out on this from the original approval is the additional run of electrical conduit that you see kind of going on the right side of the sheet, which is on the Wentworth and Cisco side of Corporate Drive. Once we got into construction coordination with Eversource, they had asked us to run conduit to connect up to an existing manhole, which is adjacent to the Cisco driveway. And then if you go to the next sheet, please. The original plan, we had showed it tying into that manhole to the south of the Wentworth driveway. So we're still making that connection. We're just adding that run and additional manhole up to the north. The other change to point out is the original plan had a gas line running through the property. The only gas service we need at this point is for the utility building. So in coordination with Unitil, we've pulled that line directly off of the old Goose Bay alignment and gotten rid of the gas line that was running through the site. Go to the next sheet. And then again, no changes here from a utility perspective from the original approval. Water looping through the site. Most of the sewer, with the exception of building 3, comes down to the south end of the site and ties into Goose Bay. And then the electrical has been coordinated with Eversource already. Landscaping, this was just revised to make sure we didn't have any conflicts with the tweaks to the utility plan, but otherwise this planting plan remained the same. We did get a comment from the PDA. I believe it was the Norway spruce? The Norway spruce that we were asked to remove, so we swapped those out for an appropriate substitute. And then the other piece that you see grayed out here, that all the street trees along Corporate Drive that have been installed already are just sort of shown in the background there. Otherwise, no changes to this plan. If you want to you can flip through the rest of this. And then the next is the photometrics, again, updated. The updates here is for Phase 1, originally the lights were mounted to building mounted lights on Building 2. We are not currently building the Building 2 shell, so in order to get the site lighting, we've switched to pole mounted lights on the access drive that goes through the middle of the site instead of the building mounted that were previously approved. So that is the master plan. The next section of plans are the what we are currently the phase 2, as we're calling it, which is the fit up of building 1 and the shell. A lot of what's on these plans is approved and currently under construction. Again, I think I'll point out some of the changes. This plan we added is this construction logistics plan for phase 2. And this was just to show the expanded laydown area located in the footprint of building 2. And then the sediment basin there that we've sized to account for the construction phase runoff. I think at this, before we get into the phase 2 thing, I want Dave to sort of kind of take you guys through what the reason we're building building 1 now and what it's going to be used for.
So thank you, Neil. Excuse me, Dave Morgan, Blonza. I've had a proverbial frog in my throat for 2 weeks now. So this building, the reason we want to get this thing moving right away is because the product that we're planning to manufacture in this facility is one that touches everybody in this room. We're in a agreement with a company called Vertex Pharmaceuticals. They have come up with a curative therapy for type 1 diabetes. There's already been one person go all the way through trials. There's half a dozen others getting ready to complete trials. So we're in the process of trying to get this building built so that we can help make some people a little healthier.
And that was also the agreement that Lonza now has with Vertex. That was sort of the reason why we've gone with the approach of getting the shell going while we're getting the amended approval to fit up the building to meet the timeline that Vertex has to get this building up and operational.
Yeah, obviously, when you've got something of this nature, speed to market is key, right?
So that's kind of the reason for all the changes to building 1, the right sizing of it, and is speed. So if you want to go to the next sheet, so this is the phase 2. What we're looking to have completed as part of this round of construction. So the phase 1B, which is approved, and then phase 2. The additions to this from sort of the original phase 1B plan, again, we moved the car turnaround, the connection below the utility building. The big one you're probably seeing there is the surface parking lot. Again, this goes back to the right sizing and the speed that Lonza's client Vertex is looking for. We basically wanted to get the minimum amount of parking required on the site to support building 1, and that this was the solution we came up with. So this would be essentially temporary until the next phase were to go. So it's the service parking lot has 150 spaces. We also have a small lot sort of adjacent to the utility building there that has, I think it's 6 or 7 ADA spaces. The gravel wetland 2, which is, again, part of the original approval, will be constructed and used to treat the runoff from the parking lot. That parking lot has a less impervious surface than was originally designed to go to gravel wetland 2, so it's able to adequately treat the runoff from that. And then again, gravel wetland 1 which is already going to be constructed as part of phase 1B, will take care of the rest of the treatment for this phase. So if you want to go to the next sheet. Again, so all just detailed site plans. I don't have to go through these in great detail anymore. A lot of it is very similar to what's on the master plan and what was already approved. Again, except for the surface parking lot there, which and I think Lonza's acknowledged this, that anything beyond this, that's not going to be enough parking, and that's when that parking garage that's in the master plan will need to get designed and built before moving beyond this. Yeah, so you can just keep going through this, Peter. Again, the stormwater management, grading and drainage, gravel wetland 1 and 2 will be constructed as part of this phase. The sediment basin that's on this plan on the right there will remain at the end of phase 2. It is possible that before the construction of this is complete, Lonza will be looking to move beyond phase 2. That's not contemplated here, but that's when that sediment basin would be then converted to the approved rain garden. You can keep flipping through these, Peter. Yeah, you can keep going. Utilities the same. We're putting in most of the utilities for this project now as part of this phase, just because they all run up through that central access way. So they'll all be in place for most of the future development on the site. The infrastructure will be there, and we'll just be able to tie into what's going to be constructed now. And then we just have landscaping and photometric plans for this current phase on here. And then again, a lot of the landscaping that's shown on here, if Lonza is going to move forward with some of their other expansion on the site, some of this landscaping again might get pushed into a future phase. But we wanted to show it on this plan so that if there is going to be a gap, that this stuff gets put in at the end of phase 2, so that the site will not be just completely ripped up for all eternity. So finally, the last thing I wanted to touch on is the traffic study that we had submitted. One of the comments we got from TAC was that you guys would like to have a peer review of that, which is fine. I just wanted to kind of point out a couple things in the conclusion section from that traffic study. Just to point out that we did do updated counts as part of this, and then again included those additional 6 intersections. The other thing to note is that the traffic study was done for the full build out of the master plan. And it also contemplates 100% of the employees working on site. This last 6 months, Lonza's been in a lot of their office workers have been in a hybrid work environment, as a lot of other people have. The average on an average day, Lonza has about 50% of their employees in the facility on a given day. I think for the first 6 months of this year, I think the peak was like 77%, and the average was right around 50 with a low in the 30s. But the traffic study does contemplate 100% of the employees every day, so it is certainly a worst case scenario. We also had adjusted the traffic counts we did this year based on DOT guidelines to account for pre-pandemic conditions. And then based on the 2035 build condition, there are some level of service at intersections that are not desirable. But the site generated from this traffic is expected to have a negligible effect on those operations. And those intersections identified are ones that PDA is already aware of and monitoring as well. Finally, to wrap this up, we did receive a few comments from you folks, and I think most of them are pretty straightforward. I think the only one that I really wanted to make sure that I had a handle on, and I'm assuming it came from the fire, was about the automatic sprinkler system for the parking garage. Does that just require an additional stub off the water main to service that, or is that an additional system?
No, it should just be a stub.
Okay.
I would imagine, based on your design, it would just be a stub.
Okay, that's what I was.
That's only if it's going to be greater than 75 feet to the highest level.
Yeah, well, likely would be at seven-story high, but okay, that's easy enough to add. Everything else, trailer utilities cut and capped when they're removed. That's understood and will be done. Moving the valve location for the water main and having a 10-inch valve, that's easy. Third-party oversight for any work performed in the right-of-way, we have no issue with that. Grease trap will be required if any food preparation is planned in the proposed buildings. This first building specifically will not have food preparation in it. They'll utilize either the cafeteria at the existing building, or I don't know if you guys have a cafeteria somewhere else. At these, I don't know. Either way, this building is not going to have food preparation. Third-party review of the stormwater design. Oh, this was another question. So we were anticipating the third-party review of the stormwater design. The second part of this comment, stamped review of post-construction conditions to verify that it will perform as designed. Is that stamped review from the third-party review or from Time Bond? The way it's written, it's
a little ambiguous.
Typically, that's something that the design engineer is supposed to take care of, but the way this was written, I wasn't sure if...
No, that would be the design engineer.
Okay. And then again, third party, the traffic study Easements for water main, for leak detection, valves and shutoffs. I think that's pretty standard. And I already talked about the conditions, which was the last one. So that's everything. Let me know if there are any questions. I tried to go as quickly as I could, but not lose anyone. So
Good job. Thanks, Neil. Any additional comments? Jack?
Does Pease, do you guys ever ask them for one?
Were you going to just still do the 8x8 tapping sleeving valve and then 10-inch valve additional?
yes, yep.
Might be worth not having the box on the 8-inch, but leaving that one open. If the valve installed open, no box, so there's only one valve to
Oh, yeah, no, I completely.
mess around with.
Just getting rid of the 8-inch valve and putting a 10-inch on the other side. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no, not installing the box to access the valve nut.
Oh,
Yeah.
on the 10-inch or the 8-inch?
The 8-inch.
But actually installing the 8-inch,
Oh, yeah.
but leaving it open.
You can't install a tapping sleeve without the valve, right? So you,
It's a good point.
yeah. Yeah, but that's at your discretion.
Okay.
Just in regards to site access, so I was just talking about with building, we will require an NFPA 241 plan for this construction to make sure that site access is maintained to the existing site, just so you're not blocking both directions at the same time, so we can get to the back of the building.
Gotcha.
That
That's
sort of
during
thing.
during construction.
Yeah,
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 okay,
well,
yeah.
yes, correct. And so the 241 plan will have the definitions of what you're going to do for access for the fire department, but that's also for construction safety. So you'll have to develop one of those.
And for phased occupancy as well. So if you're gonna, you want to build one building, you want to occupy it, you want to start production. Meanwhile, you're still going to be working on another phase of the plan that's adjacent to it. So the 241 plan would address all of the steps of the construction process, the safety associated with it, traffic movement, pedestrian flow, occupancy, phasing, we're going to open this one now, we're still working on this one, so on and so forth. It's a pretty boilerplate.
So when you're talking about the back of the building, you're talking about the back of the existing facilities?
Yes, and also, but, right, so both sides of Goose Bay Drive are enclosed at the same time, so we can access it if we need to from there.
Yeah. So there is no point in time we'll be closing the west side of Goose Bay Drive? That is where shipping and receiving is for the main site?
You say that, but then there'll be construction equipment in the way at the worst possible moment. I believe you, we just need to get it written down,
Okay.
that what you're going to do. Like, I understand things are gonna be in flux and moving, it's more of just having a plan to refer to if a problem
Yeah.
does arise.
So we do have, one of the things Neil didn't talk about as far as the site logistics is the northeast corner of the iron. Over on the corporate drive side is where materials will be coming to and from, because it's been made explicitly clear to us that other side of the road is where everything comes and goes, and that shuts down site if we do that,
I gotcha. Okay.
which means no money comes through the door.
Oh, yeah, no, I totally understand and I appreciate that.
That was kind of important to hear.
That's something Colonel's probably already
Oh, yeah.
got something like this, so we can.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
Yeah,
probably
we'll go
have
around.
something like this, it's just specifically the 241 plan is all encompassing, so it
Yeah.
allows us to do that.
Yeah,
And
we talked
in
about
regards to site access, just a quick question, the utility bridge, what's the clear height there that's going to be? Is that going to be at least 13.6?
Yes. I don't know the exact dimension.
I'm looking
I
at it,
think.
it's hard to tell on one side, so
I think at 22.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah, we're
right.
well
just make sure
over
it's,
the-
yeah.
Yeah, we're well over 13.6.
And also, any guard gate, any manual gate that you can lock will have either an electronic lock that'll allow us to open the gate, or it will have a Knox padlock.
Yes. Yeah, I think we already have it noted for that, but if not, we will add that.
The guard shacks weren't originally on, that's why.
Oh, yeah.
So, minor detail, but that's.
Yeah, so
out there.
the gates they're going to use are going to be whatever, it's the same system they have out at the front gate.
They
Which
don't have one there now, so that's why I want to make sure we get these.
Well, the front entrance to the ones that has a gate.
Doesn't have the keys.
Oh,
That's what I'm getting at.
gotcha. Okay.
So, I don't care what system you use, as long as my key goes in and it
Yep,
opens the gate.
understood.
So, thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? Any public comments? Anyone from the public like to make any comments? Or on Zoom? No one on Zoom? All right, we'll close the public comment portion and open it back up to TAG for further discussion or recommendation.
anything to add. If anybody doesn't, I'll make a recommendation to approve and send to the planning board. Recommend to the planning board.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Neil?
Thank you.
All right, item C, under new business, the request of Banfield Realty LLC, owner for property located at 375 Banfield Road, for preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide one lot into two lots to create the following. Proposed lot 1 with 6.65 acres of lot area and 354 feet of street frontage, and proposed lot 2 with 7.96 acres of lot area and 200 feet of street frontage. Said property is located on Assessor Map 266, Lot 7, and lies within the industrial district. Hello.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? I'm Rob Graham. I represent ownership for 375 Banfield Road, Banfield Realty. Joe Coronati is here to present our proposed subdivision plan.
Thank you. So this is a very minor subdivision. You've seen this property. We've been here multiple times with the site plan for the building that we've been proposing, and so we'd like to subdivide the property into two separate lots. The lots are conforming for frontage and area, and the lot to the west would be a non-building lot, and we have that noted right on the plan. And we do require an easement between the lots just for the grading and outfall for the stormwater. So the easement's shown on the plan as well, and that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple subdivision of the land, and
Do you want to go through the comments?
Sure. The first comment is perfectly fine. That makes sense. We're not proposing to change any of those stormwater utilities with this subdivision. The second one, the doctrine of merger, I didn't really know what that meant, but I think Rob spoke with.
I can speak to that.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. We will either prepare a declaration of covenants for both lots, or we will just form a new entity so that the second lot can take an easement from the first lot and vice versa.
Okay.
We will amend the plans to reflect the city's ownership of 100 Campus Drive, obviously, just oversight. I don't think we're requesting any waivers at this point.
Yeah, there was.
Unless there's something that you can tell us that we need, but.
There is, so you should probably request a waiver from this maintenance bond. It's the last page of the subdivision ordinance.
Okay.
Do you have to, I mean, there was no improvements associated with the subdivision per se,
Right,
at all,
so-
on-site or off-site?
Right, so just, I think you.
Just say that.
Yeah, just in consultation with legal, they say that you should be requesting a waiver from this.
Okay. We understand.
Yep.
That's the maintenance requirement item, bonding and maintenance. And then prior to recording, we would set the monuments.
Right, we'll have all those standards.
It's the standard conditions. Yeah.
Any comments from TAC? Questions?
So you're still doing work on both lots. So the stormwater outfall is in the southernmost or southwesternmost easement area?
Correct.
Okay. So what is keeping, the lot on the right still responsible for the DES cleanup and remediation?
Both lots will still be owned by the They'll be owned by the same groups, but in different entities. Our ownership of those lots makes us responsible for them, not the site plan.
I think I just want to make sure that
yeah, I had the
this is
same
not
question. I
an
just
attempt
wanna
to
be able
split the
to-
lots,
Sure.
to split
Document.
responsibility.
No, I can explain the purpose of it. Our bank for this project is Kennebunk Savings Bank. They've done multiple environmental development projects in town who had environmental cleanup mitigation like that we have. And what we have is an upland area which we have one set of obligations under our DES and EPA approval. The second set we haven't established yet because they've asked us to study a lot of things, which will take some time. And the bank needs to be able to finance the development project without that ongoing PS of the permitting process. So we've subdivided the property based on their advice, and that's why we're here, to be able to finance the property so that the bank can be able to finance the development property on a piece of land that its permits are resolved and that our mitigation and that the cleanup work has been resolved on.
Yeah, I had a similar concern, and I guess through that process, we just need to know that the responsible party for the remedial action plan that DES has put together, I know that's put together for Lot 1. I just want to make sure the responsible party will also take care of the remedial action they come up with on Lot 2. I know you're not there yet, and you've agreed to do the study they've asked for.
Yeah,
and you have
well,
to
we own
finish
the
that.
property, and we can't sell the property. Well, nobody would buy the property until so our ownership of that property under the state and federal law obligates us to all of those things. We can confirm that for
Okay,
you, no
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
I understand the
I'll
concern.
confirm it, yeah. We
Yeah,
just want to
we'll
make sure
confirm it for you.
you're held to the same
Yeah.
requirements. That's all I have.
All right, I'll open it up for any public comment.
Yeah, sure. Is it that folks?
Better do.
Or there.
My name is David Ecker. I own 422 Banfield Road, which is directly across the street from this proposed project. I'm here because of the concern of the Department of Environmental Services, State of New Hampshire, that these folks are under obligation right now to test beyond their borders for the lead, arsenic, mercury, forever chemicals that are emanating from their property right now. And dividing that land in two, I don't understand what the whole purpose of it is. I mean, you're just taking a contaminated piece of land and cutting it in two. It seems to me like you'd only want one problem. But anyway, there's a culvert leaving that property that they've now divided in two, which runs onto my land. It's 14 inches in diameter and has, well, according to this what Mr. Graham got a year and a half or so ago from the DES, that the water that's flowing from that culvert is not fit for human consumption. And it's still going on, and I would think that that issue should be corrected before you go splitting a piece of land and all that in two first. Never mind that. It's possible that the contamination is backed up onto the community campus blocks also, which we all own, and you would think that we all would want to make sure that before this is all done and anything else is done, is that it's tested, a plan is created, and it's cleaned up before any of this stuff goes on any further. I quite frankly think the problem with this whole thing is that not enough people know about this issue, which is going to change. So I'm respectfully requesting that you deny this until that's corrected. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, folks. Besides that, there's a building lot. What do you split it in half for? You can't build on it. So what's the sense of it? It's just to remove yourself from the liability of the situation right now. That's what I see. This is wrong. I see wildlife that are dying. It's craziness because of this. You want to put a building over there, put a lot into? No. I think the DES should be involved with this. There should be a preliminary meeting right here today, and that we should get a hold of the state and see what they think about this whole problem before it goes any further. That's what I think. That's exactly what I think. Anybody got any questions about this? I mean, you wouldn't want to see what I see every single day. It's pretty nasty, folks. Really nasty. This is not going to go away. Trust me. Trust me. It's not good. So I don't understand why you're putting that line in the middle of that piece of property. It makes no sense, except for to remove yourself from the liability. And I want to make sure the state has a certain time frame for testing, and I want to make sure that's adhered to. And I don't want this to create a conflict with that. So I would like you just to be a preliminary meeting today, and then find out from the state, and go further from that afterwards, and see what they have to say with the whole thing. That would make a hell of a lot more sense to me than what's going on here right now. Trying to divide this piece of property in half that you've owned for, well, a couple of years now, and you've known for a year and a half that the contamination leaving that property is just extremely bad. And it didn't take you very long for you folks to test your own property really quick, but you don't want to test the properties around it. So I think there's going to be a conflict in the future if you folks let this go forward and divide that land up in two. And I'm only here to make you all be aware of it and how bad the chemicals are coming off that land, and the fact that it abuts these other pieces of property around it, and it's emitting very nasty chemicals. I mean, you should see it. It's disgusting. If any of you guys would all come out and take a look at it. Everybody's going to see it pretty soon, trust me. It's coming up real soon. Everybody in the world's going to see it real quick, probably in the next week. Just so you know.
I think the whole world has seen it, David.
No. The whole world hasn't seen it like they're going to see it, trust me. It's disgusting, folks. I mean, nothing, I grew up there. It's just, the problem needs to be taken care of, and putting a line down for that piece of property is not going to solve this problem, except for divide them from the liability problem that they have right now. So I respectfully request that you folks think a little bit hard about this and not separate that land anymore. That's my comment.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? No one on Zoom. So we'll close that portion of the hearing and open it back up to TAC.
I'd just like to give the board some information from the standpoint, we're in full compliance with what DES and EPA have asked us to do. We've requested permission to test on Mr. Ecker's property.
you have
He
not.
hasn't given it to me.
You haven't given, I've not gotten a written piece of paper from you, pal, anywhere that's certified that I signed that says you can come on my land. You have not done that.
I asked you personally, and
You've done that.
I'm not gonna have an exchange directly with him.
with you here, but that's not your
I think the
problem.
public hearing is
It'd
closed.
be helpful for us, because you raised an important point.
Okay, sure.
It would be
I'm sorry,
helpful if
I'm
we could
sorry.
finish our
I'm
conversation
sorry,
with them,
I'm so
because
sorry.
I talked to the state as well, and I had the same concerns you do
I'm so
about
sorry.
them splitting the, that's okay, about them splitting the lot, and I talked to the state about it. One of the key things that the state said is it's important that they do the project, the development project, because that's part of the remedial action plan. It's also important they complete the testing that you're talking about and that they're working on. And they've already submitted a response to their requirement for additional testing on the lowland area, the area you're concerned about that has the wetlands. It is contaminated, and they're working on that as well. One of the things that's really important to remember is that contaminated sites are all over the state, and a lot of them go uncleaned up because they can't find a responsible party. Here we have a responsible party who's demonstrated his willingness to go along with it, and he has so far. I think we're at the point where we have to move the project forward and continue the testing on the other site so he can continue to work on it. Otherwise, it's going to stall the project and nothing's going to happen. So my opinion is that we move it forward, let the planning board approve the subdivision, move the development forward, and then have him continue the testing, which includes sampling on the property and off the property, which includes your property.
Which we've agreed to do, and we're obligated to do, and we're willing to
So
do.
obviously, we just need to work that out.
Right, but I haven't heard boo from, I haven't gotten a piece of, I get all kinds of certified letters about these meetings here, but I didn't get any certified letter about going and doing
Maybe
any
we can
tests.
get Mr. Graham to send a letter requesting permission, or
Okay.
his consultant.
Happy to do it.
Now-
We were on a little bit more friendly terms. I don't know what's going on here today, but we're happy to do it. It's our obligation. We're going to meet it.
Shanti?
I would just say, as a concept of allowing any development to move forward before the remediation is started would be suspect, but in this case, drawing the line down the middle, the purpose seems to be that now the bank will lend the money to allow that stage of the property to move forward, and that is step one, as Peter said, of the cleanup. So drawing that line is the trigger for the bank to give the money to the applicant so they can begin the cleanup. So I mean, from that logistical perspective and standpoint, it makes infinite sense, because in the meantime, I agree, nothing's happening, right? So something, every day that something doesn't happen is an opportunity for the spread to go even further and wider. So I would, my vote would be to move this forward to the planning board.
Wow. Wow.
Any further discussion? Or was that a motion?
I'll make a motion to move it forward to the planning board
Second.
with the, they needed the waiver, with the waiver request, right?
Right.
Yes, we'll submit that to you within the next day or so.
Okay.
So a
You
motion.
said you could provide information proving that you are still responsible for the remediation on both lots after this subdivision?
That's what the statute requires. We own the land, we're responsible for it.
Yeah.
Believe me, I wish there was a way out. There isn't.
And that the time frame doesn't change. I don't want the time frame to change. I don't want it to get pushed off 2 or 3 years and all this ordeal.
Yeah, we're going to confirm that with the legal department, that the ownership split doesn't change anything, and he's still responsible. And I've been working with Scott Drew at DES, who's keeping them on task. And
And the liability issue of the cleanup, because it could be sensitive.
that's what we want to confirm, is that ownership doesn't change anything that
I mean,
way.
it could go all over the community campus.
And just so you know,
properties.
this is a recommendation to the planning board. So before they go to the planning board, we'll have that confirmation that ownership he's still responsible for.
Excuse me, is the public hearing closed or?
It is, and we have a motion and a second.
I seconded.
You second. Oh, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, folks. We'll stay on task.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Item D, the request of JKM Realty LLC owner for property located at 700 Beverly Hill Road, requesting site plan approval for construction of a 3,385 square foot addition to an existing commercial building with associated site improvements. The property is located on Assessor Map 252, Lot 2-10, and lies within the industrial district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Shagnon from Hammond Engineering here today with Stuart Mitchell from SJM Construction, who's going to construct the project, and Chris Sawyer, who's the property owner. We did come to a technical advisory committee workshop some time ago and incorporated your feedback into the application plans that we brought forward for full site plan approval. It's getting late, so I don't know how much you want me to present, but on this sheet that you're bringing up, that's the next one, Peter, is the site plan, and basically it has a proposed addition on the West Road side of the existing rear building. That also has some architectural plans that contain some lifts for the auto body repair shop. And we've outlined some parking spaces. There's plenty of additional area to park. We provided a trip generation calc and a parking calc as part of the submission. And we have, that's basically the project. So I'll move on to the review comments. And I did hand out a response to comments letter, and I'll go through those. The repair the existing perimeter fence where damaged. So we added note 11 on sheet C3. Would be helpful to us, though, if there was a particular focus of that area. I'm suspecting it's down in the northwest corner. But the person that made the comment, if there's some other area that is concerning, it'd be good to let the owner know, so he makes the changes and updates the appropriate area. So.
Yeah, I believe the southwest corner really was the biggest concern, but anything on that west side.
The southwest corner near the telephone easement, or?
Sorry, where the outfalls are.
In the drainage area?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I suspected. Okay, thank you for that. The next is to show the existing water service to the building. So we've added part of the submission today is an updated existing conditions plan. So there's a water service from West Road that runs to the east, northeast, roughly, corner of the existing building in the front. And there's water in the back, right?
Yeah.
You don't have any idea if it's a separate service or if it runs building to building?
My knowledge is it's separate, because the fire service is in there.
There was also a fire service?
Yep.
So if you look on the plan that I just handed out, there was another shut-off that is located up West Road, directly sort of to the east of the northeast corner of that back building. That probably is that service, but I guess we'll have to get more detail and show that. So that, hopefully that answers that question. The existing driveway for the main building should be moved farther from the intersection of West Road and Peverly. So we're not sure why that's being requested. If you could go to the existing conditions plan. So right now, the address is 700 Peverly Hill Road. The access is from West Road. So my understanding is that the city would like to have the owner change the address to a West Road address, and there's been some correspondence about the proper number. The moving that driveway, I suspect it's just an ordinance type thing. If it was a vacant land, it might want to be to the west, but the way that the site is currently arranged with the access to the front building, which is the front end of house, the public side, we believe that it's worked. It's worked for a number of years, 40 years. It would probably, in our opinion, be more confusing if people were trying to get to the location and the driveway was moved to the west. They might think they're not going to the right building and stop in the middle of the West Road. So also the back of the house is separated by some existing fencing. I guess we want to just find out what the nature of that request. We're not aware that there's a high volume of accidents.
No, it was just, if this is a new site, new development, you'd want the driveway to be at least 50 feet from the intersection with Peverly Hill Road.
Yeah.
And it's less than 50 feet right now as it is.
Yes.
So the benefit would be to, coming in and out of the site there, wouldn't be blocked by queuing as much on West Road waiting to get in and out of Peverly. And with the new developments coming in across the street, the traffic's going to get heavier at that intersection, and that queue on West Road will probably build up and block that driveway more frequently. So it would be to your advantage to having the driveway move back farther from Peverly Hill Road, so that you can get in and out behind the queue on cars waiting on West Road.
But that would be for somebody taking a left turn out to get back to Peverly?
Yes.
Gotcha. Well, the owner would like to speak to the...
Yeah, I mean, the entrance has been there for 40 years. We've owned it for about 20 years now. We did work back about 20 years ago when we purchased the property. So it's for our customers. I don't understand why we would have to move that if it's been existing there for 40 years, 20 years in our ownership.
Yeah. Well, traffic is not what it was 40 years ago or 20 years ago. It's continually increasing out there, and we have a large development coming in across the street. It's going to take a longer time for the traffic to get out of West Road onto Peverly Hill Road. And that will cause the queuing on West Road to come back, probably blocking the driveway more frequently than it does now. So it's we don't want to see someone coming out of your driveway and blocking traffic coming from Peverly Hill Road, turning in and having the car, right out there in the middle of the street blocking traffic. That's the advantage of moving it down, or if you're to move it out onto Peverly Hill Road, directly. But
So the customer who exits the facility, if they are trying to go left and there's a line of traffic on West Road waiting, you don't believe that people would let them in to that queue as they...
They might. I think there's going to be built up traffic no matter where I put my entrance on that road based off those condos going there. So
Yeah.
I don't, whether it's put back another 100 feet or where it is now, I really don't see that being too much of an issue. I mean, we're just assuming at this point.
Yeah, you're going to come out. It would just help. I mean, that's why driveways don't typically go that close to intersections. I mean, if this was a new site, it would not be allowed.
Yeah, it's not. It's existing.
I know, I understand it. Yeah, I'm just pointing this out because I believe it would be in your benefit and the public's benefit to have that driveway further back from Beverly Hill Road.
All right, the next item is green building statement. We're not going to ask for a waiver. We will provide a green building statement to the application, probably by Monday. Please provide a landscaping plan. And we've submitted here an update to the sheet 3 site plan that now has a landscape schedule in the bottom left-hand corner.
This is the existing.
So there's some plantings along that building that are proposed. I think the site is well landscaped on the street side. It has a collection of street trees. And that's you guys can review and comment on. Please note on the plans where public and private infrastructure starts and ends along West Road. So I'm not sure the nature of that question. We've shown shutoffs. Is there initial or additional notation that needs to occur based on that?
Where did that comment come from?
That came from us. I believe it has to do with the drainage infrastructure and the sewer. It just doesn't say where it ties into city, where it becomes city to private for either of those lines. I don't know if you want to add to that.
I think that's good. So the application includes a proposed 20-foot drainage easement. So there's some city drainage on West Road that crosses onto the property. And if you look at the utility plan, that doesn't show the pipes, but that does show the pipes. So the utility plan shows the piping. So there's a catch basin. Nope. The utility plan. Thought you had it up. Yeah, right there. So there's some catch basins on West Road that cross onto the lot. And at that plan, at the TAC workshop, that was one of the requested items. Now, the plan that we provided at the TAC workshop, which was a previous, we did, I think, supply a copy of a previously approved site plan and a boundary survey that said drainage easement. See Plan C-1106 or something. And if you go to that plan, it doesn't show a drainage easement. So I think at one point the intention was, because the drainage crossed onto the lot, that it should be in an easement. So we're showing a proposed easement so that that issue is addressed. As far as the sewer goes, the sewer comes out, and typically there isn't a shut-off with a sewer, so wherever it crosses to the main, in this case I believe it's to a manhole, that's where the private line then goes into the public city main.
My understanding of our ordinance is that the property owner owns the sewer service to the connection to the sewer main itself, including the connection. So that would be all the way into that manhole in their driveway, and then the connection to that manhole as well would be their ownership of the sewer service.
Is that,
Okay, that explains the sewer. So I just want to be painfully clear. So the drainage line where the easement is proposed, that is not to the benefit of the property owner. That is a city drainage line. So the city owns all that infrastructure.
That's a good question. I don't know the history of how that came to be, that there's a city pipe that goes across the applicant's property. So the applicant, as shown on the plan, is willing to grant an easement to the city. And my suspicion is that the detail that you're speaking, some of the details you're talking about need to be included in that easement. I don't know if Zach can comment on whether the city would consider that private maintenance, or whether they want the right to also be able to maintain it, because if the private maintenance doesn't happen, then it can back up onto the city street. So probably my suspicion is that Zach can chime in that you'd want that to be privately maintained, with the city having an ability to go in there and do maintenance if needed.
That does sound right. So our catch basins collect stormwater, and then it's conveyed through that pipe. So we do need to have access to it, and easement rights to flow through.
Okay.
So if you make that a condition, then we can work that out with the legal department as to, getting that
Yeah,
easement
the
taken
specific
care of.
details, yeah.
Does that sound
Sounds,
right? Okay.
Yeah, that's just.
Yeah.
Okay, so a condition to work out the details of ownership and maintenance for the easement
Yes.
and the infrastructure. Okay.
I just wanted to note, I think you guys put a tree in the rear driveway in the updated plans and the old plans on West Road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Might impede some traffic.
Is that part of the green plan?
That might affect
That's
some
their
traffic.
I don't know how well that'll
Green
grow.
tree.
Tree.
If it was supposed to be on the other side, we'll sort that out, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that I finished. So, there was one other comment about the maintenance inspection plan, that the operation and maintenance will have to be, that information on ongoing maintenance will have to be, is required to be submitted to the city. So, basically, in the long-term maintenance plan, we took off under annual report, we just deleted if required. So that should take care of that comment.
Does this one require CTAP?
PTAP?
Yeah, does it
No,
PTAP?
it's not 15.
Not big enough?
I wouldn't think.
It's pretty small.
All right, thanks. Any comments at this point from TAC members?
Just as a heads up, when you go through the building permit process and for fire alarm, sprinkler stuff, we'll need to discuss access regarding through your gate, just for the fire department to have access, whether it's adding a key switch or Knox lock, something minor, but we'll deal with it then, just as a heads up.
All right. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the portion of the meeting and open it back up to TAC for further discussion or motion.
Recommend to the planning board with the stated stipulations.
Do you know what those are? Yeah. We have the stipulations?
So the one that I just wrote down was the condition to detail ownership and maintenance on the plan when it's been worked out through the easement, and then I think the new submission that you just handed out includes all of the other comments. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think we have everything as long as we.
The comments from TAC, what the, Eric previously put in comments as well?
Well, if they address them, they don't need
Yeah.
to be stipulations for planning board.
Right.
As long as they come to planning board with all those things addressed.
Okay. I guess a comment of repairing the fence in the adequate locations, was that added as?
Yeah, there's a note 11 on sheet C2, repair existing fencing perimeter where damaged.
Okay.
Yep. Hopefully that takes care of that.
Okay. Yeah, so if they address them all, they don't have to be stipulations. But the ones that they didn't address, like the easement, will have to be on there. Develop an easement for that drainage line. Or clarify the easement. I guess the easement's there, they just don't have the document?
It's not in the deed. It's not, it was supposed to be on a plan.
So did you just put this, you put it on the plan?
I added
Oh,
it
He added it.
down
He added it.
because it was supposed to be there, but I couldn't find it in the record. One of the recorded plans, or one of the recorded plans has a note, or the old site plan, I think, had a note, see this recorded plan for the drainage easement. And you go look at that recorded plan, and there's no drainage easement on it.
Okay.
You know,
So we have to develop the drainage easement, so that's. that place.
somewhere maybe there was supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure we did deed research, and we didn't come up with a signed easement
Okay.
in the record.
All right, so we have a motion, second, with that stipulation. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, is it going to September TAC, or if we get
September
this?
planning board.
I mean,
Yep, yep.
September planning board, sorry. So we have to the end of the month to
To get it
do a
in.
packet.
Yep, yep.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or business? We'll adjourn.
Adjourn.
Thank you.